Hello, hello, everyone. I am very excited to be presenting to you all today. We're going to be talking about upskilling and portability of skills. We're going to give folks a couple minutes to ease on in, but this is actually the first presentation that we are doing since I officially and our team officially changed jerseys, and we are one with the Activated Insights team. For all of those who I have not had the pleasure of meeting in person or any of our recent events, my name is Helen Adeosun. I'm the former CEO of and founder of Care Academy, and now the Chief Strategy Officer at Activated Insights, and proudly having built up Care Academy and now transitioning into becoming one with the Activated Insights team. So very excited to present today and talk to you all about upskilling and portability of skills and how we create a future-ready healthcare workforce. That's a matter of having the right training, the tools and resourcing, and also a matter of process. If you all will indulge me, I'm a former educator, and so I will tend to make things very, very interactive. And I think this is going to be a really awesome opportunity for us to be interactive and really share with each other. I find that, just so you all know my style, the best presentations often really give you the chance to reflect about some of the ways some of the things that you're doing that are great, and some of the things that you're doing within your organization that may need improvement. And just to be very honest, I actually had the opportunity to do this exact presentation. We've tweaked it a little bit at the Home Care Association of America meeting. So some of you who may have been in the room, this may look familiar, but a little bit more interaction and tweaking just based on feedback. But it's great to meet you all. I'm just going to read a couple of the names that are in the chat. Melissa, Alex at A Place at Home, Arkansas, shout out. Jenny Cortese in Wilmington, North Carolina, great place. Kenzie Martin, A Place at Home at Hot Springs, Arkansas. Sydney Brown, Cornerstone Caregiving in South Jacksonville, Florida. Ashante, good to see you, friend. Ashante from Argentum. Sheila Felthauser at Opportunities Unlimited. Mandy Shorter at Absolute Home Care and Medical Staffing in Portage, Michigan, which I have actually been to while I was at Notre Dame. Anita Pubi at Comfort Keepers, Jacksonville, Florida. Welcome to all of our Comfort Keepers here. And Jamon White, Crown Caregivers. Shirley Malone, very nice to meet you, from San Antonio, Texas, at Personal Home Care Team. So thank you so much for those who I read out, those who I did not read out. Thank you so much for joining. I'm really looking forward to presenting today. Next slide. So for those of you who are just joining us, my name is Helen Adeosun. I am the Chief Strategy Officer at Activated Insights, the former CEO and founder of Care Academy. Our mission as a company has been to accelerate the world's transition to a caregiver-centric healthcare system by elevating senior care staff and enabling excellent health outcomes. I'm very proud to say that in my jersey change, that opportunity certainly continues on in the mission of Activated Insights. And I'm really excited to talk with you all today about some of the opportunities that are offered in the combined effort of both companies coming together under the Activated Insights brand. Next slide. So just so you all are familiar, if you are already not using Care Academy, we have built a platform now under the Activated Insights brand. And the value that we bring in terms of empowering your caregivers, your frontline staff, include having worked with 2,400 active employers and growing. We offer 550 mobile classes and training resources. That's everything from short form videos to long form compliance-based and mandated opportunities. We've educated over 800,000. We're likely going to reach the 1 million mark very soon. 120 fully translated Spanish classes, and unique programs towards college credit, as well as over nearly 6 million classes completed on the Care Academy platform. Next slide. Now, as we combine forces under Activated Insights and Care Academy, we're building the future of the workforce and training and enablement. That means that with both combined efforts and platforms, you're getting continued access to engaging and educational resources. So now a growing library of more than 1,100 courses designed for long-term and post-acuity, 150 plus the short and skill-focused videos that can enable your caregivers as well as your frontline staff, dining staff, and an expanded dementia care library, including TIPA SNOWS courses. So many of you have asked. If you have not asked, I'm here to reassure you that you'll still be working with the same friendly team that you know and trust. I think one of the things that Bud and the team here at Activated Insights really sort of appreciated about what we bring to the Activated Insights platform is the ability to make sure that we have a very human first component. So you'll be introduced to your Activated Insights account executive, and then also to the robust customer service element, and then additional capabilities to help better serve your team. So gathering actionable feedback from employees and customers, so that robustness of data, simplifying employee recruitment and retention, and deliver measurable improvements in care quality. So you're getting not only training as well as sort of training provided insights, you're also leveraging data and also the results of surveys as well across sort of those opportunities within Activated Insights. So really excited to speak with you all today and just talk more about some of the processes and opportunities to leverage Activated Insights within the process of creating a future-ready healthcare workforce. Next slide. The challenge. So, I talk about this slide, and usually to folks who are not operators, who are working day in and day out, like all of you are, with direct care workers and frontline staff. I never have to reiterate the messaging behind this slide, but I think it's also a really keen reminder of how big the opportunity and the challenges are of our industry. So the population is aging rapidly, and our care infrastructure is just struggling to keep up, right? We all know about the need. We all know about the projection in terms of the aging population growth. So we're talking about by 2030, it is, I need to be reminded, November 18th of 2025. So we're talking about even 5 years from now, seeing a pretty large increase in jump to 63 million older adults that will be needing the provisioning of care. And we're seeing overall that one of the friction points to bringing in new talent into our industry is really just bad recruitment and onboarding and quality verification processes that are keeping out millions of potential direct care workers. And what we mean by that is, if you have an employee or or someone who's applied to work within your organization, they are likely looking not only at other organizations that offer direct care in post-acuity, but a range of different options for work. And one of the things that we've highlighted, over the years is that there are a number of industries that want a lot of the same portable skills as direct care workers have, whether that's that customer service, that ability to engage clients, that ability to really have a mentality and a proactive ability to meet the needs of our clients and patients. And what we're often seeing is that caregivers are not only contemplating opportunities within post-acute organizations, but they're looking elsewhere, right? Whether that is Walmart or a number of different organizations that are looking also for those same traits and skills. And if we go to the next slide, one of the things that we have noted is that that onboarding really makes the difference, right? If you all are tracking it, whether it's in your ATS or whether it's through Indeed and that pipeline flow, and we'll talk more about pipelining, but those onboarding inefficiencies are really costly. So we're seeing that it's taking multiple weeks to truly onboard across post-acuity, whether you're a home care provider, whether you're in senior living, but it's taking multiple weeks to actually have a candidate flow through become engaged, onboard, and start day one within the organizations that we work with. So employers are retraining, they're adding unnecessary sort of costs and delays. There's lost time and lost revenue, and there's caregiver burnout, right? So having been a direct care worker myself, if the employer put out their best foot forward, I applied, I'm waiting for the background check, I'm waiting also for the TB testing and all the other things that kind of come with onboarding. I'm waiting. If I know that there's a comparable, in my mind, opportunity elsewhere, and I'm already motivated to work with an employer, I'm going to be looking elsewhere because, at the end of the day, you want the opportunity to actually go do the work and learn what that looks like. For caregivers, that also means the delay of making money, going directly out and starting work, repetitive trainings, and then sort of higher rates of burnout. So we see overall that there is a challenge in terms of bringing on caregivers and making sure that they're enabled to really sort of get through those steps. And we think there are lots of opportunities for employers to really sort of fill the gap and move along caregivers in pipeline increasingly. So, and then the infrastructure overall, we're seeing faces a number of challenges. It's the difficulty already in recruitment and onboarding. It takes, I think, folks who have a mentality of being healthcare oriented, folks who want to and desire to, and I think there are a lot of folks out there who want to and desire to meet the needs of our clients, of our patients, and just even overall, there's just so many frictions that get in the way. And I'm saying this not only for caregivers but overall employers. The quality standards, knowing what the compliance standards are, and those are the things that we've tried to enable for employers in different states across the years. But just even getting your mind wrapped around that and what you need, other than training, there's a whole host of other things as well. And so as a result of that, and also not knowing what exactly lies ahead, I'm speaking from the caregiver standpoint, understanding what are the steps to take, that also leads to high turnover and a lot of challenges overall with the caregiver base. So if we go to the next slide, I actually want to highlight some of the data. We are a very data-oriented company. I always want to highlight from a place of data, and want to, if we go to the next slide, there we go. All right. So I always want to highlight from the place of data, overall, and this is this information and this data is from PHI. It's from Hospitality Net. Overall, home care and broadly post-acute doesn't stray too far overall from this. So despite investing in thousands in training and onboarding, home care faces some of the highest turnover in the service economy. So if you're seeing the annual turnover rate, we're seeing 75%. And this is, really, I think this would speak to the median of what we hear, between 66 to, in some cases, 77. The cost to replace a worker, roughly at $2,200. In retail and hospitality, it's even greater. And then training and onboarding costs really sort of $1,650. So if we think about those training and onboarding costs, that's everything from your administrator's time to really interview and get systems in place in order for a direct care worker to start. I want to hear from you all, right? This is the in service of interactivity. Put it in the chat, right? Does this hold true for you? What are you seeing right now in terms of your turnover? I always want to make sure this is sort of a learning opportunity, or ranges of what you're hearing in your industry or your area. It doesn't even have to be your own. Does this hold true? Grant, Kelly, Emma, Chelsea, Adriana, you guys thought you're going to tune into a webinar and take a seat back and eat your lunch. But I always want to keep it engaging and interactive. So if this resonates, just let me know in the chat. Let us know in the chat, right? Do these numbers hold true for your organizations or for your area? Just let us know in the chat, and we'll read some of those responses if we have them. But Thank you so much, Emma. Thank you. Really appreciate you stepping in there. So yes, this holds true for my company. Really appreciate that. Thank you so much, Emma. And just keep responding or interacting in terms of these numbers. Let's go ahead and move on to the next slide. So overall, and I think it's really, again, going back to the data, right? I think sometimes, we're in the weeds of just going. I have encountered, and this is actually, I'll even say, while I was, the CEO of Care Academy, we think about these statistics just in terms of our organization. I think they hold true for any organization and any leadership. Do me a favor right now before we go through these numbers. In your calendar in December, we've annually had like a check-in period when things get quiet. You're drinking all the eggnog, you're eating all the Christmas cookies, just to check in on your numbers, right? I think that after sort of the rush of the holidays, if you have a little bit of time, if you don't have these numbers with you or don't have ready access to these numbers, invest time, just a day or two, right, in terms of looking at these numbers. But I wanted to read out where we are as an industry and where the benchmarks are. So this is based on the 2025 Activated Insights Benchmarking Report. And these are industry estimates overall across post-acuity. So inefficient training, onboarding lag, and they're preventable problems throughout. So right now, the current state of things are, if we have, let's just imagine an organization seeing 1,000 applicants from their applicant tracking system across, they're bringing in folks from Indeed, they're hiring the community. Of 1,000 applicants, 921 are never hired. So about 92% of those initial wave of folks don't sort of make it in. 79 are hired, 12 don't show up, 67 start their first shift. So roughly about 85% of new hires show up on day one, 22 will leave early, 45 of the cohort of 1,000 remained employed, right? So overall, you're seeing basically like a funnel. If we had a funnel here, it'd basically almost be sort of flat and then get very narrow. And so why do recruitment, onboarding, and retention challenges persist, right? We have noted, one, there are no clear verification systems. So qualified applicants are falling through the cracks, right? So there's a level of technology enablement and opportunity, whether you're using, an ATS, whether you're using, Care Academy, and bringing those systems together. And if those systems aren't talking to one another, there's the high risk that applicants can fall through the cracks. There's redundant training, and that adds unnecessary lag to onboarding experienced caregivers. And what we mean by that is that there's an opportunity within your Care Academy platform to essentially raise up some of the previous training of your caregivers. Only 29% of caregivers said that their onboarding was structured and well organized. So that is, again, going back to, when I'm applying with you, what do I have to do? And we'll talk about this in a minute. And I'd love to also hear from how you all mitigate some of these challenges and these gaps. But there's a clear opportunity really to help caregivers, whether it's a person, whether it's a text message, whether it's an email, really understand what are the trainings or what are the things required. Within your Care Academy platform, there's an opportunity to see that very quite clearly once you log on. But 29% of caregivers are reporting they don't know what onboarding looks like for organizations, and that's why they're likely to filter out. And just 41% reported receiving a warm welcome on day one. Now, what do we mean by that, right? If you can think of maybe the best experiences that you've had at work, whether it's working for yourself or working for any organization, when you got that basket of swag and that welcome from, your the exec or the hiring manager or the CEO, it made all the difference in the world, right? And that's what our caregivers are looking for when they're reporting this challenge. So just 41% are saying that someone actually welcomed me. And I think that there's the Occam's razor of it all, the 80 to 20. And so, if anything, there's an opportunity to really make sure that the simplest things that we can do, whether you are working with a staff of 100 or, in several of your cases, hundreds, to make sure that you as an employer are getting the opportunity to just welcome, caregivers on day one, right? Or even before they start on day one. We're finding that interaction has so much power in a caregiver's experience overall and wanting to come back and give your organization a chance. So just wanted to mention that. And they're new to the field and need comprehensive training focused on hard and soft skills. I'll double click into that a little bit more. But what we find in the research in terms of that comprehensiveness of training is that many caregivers have the willingness, but it's also about an ability to do the work. And oftentimes, and this is actually measured in research of caregivers as confidence levels. So we ask caregivers, what is your desire and your willingness to really, enable older adults, enable folks who you're working with and your clients, and it's very high. But in terms of knowing how to do that, that's usually where the gap is. So there's a big opportunity to leverage, whether it's training online, whether it's training in person, whether it is shadowing. And I know a number of you may have different ways that you're doing that or looking to implement different ways to do that. There are really wonderful opportunities to help folks who have the desire to enter into our industry really match with ability and confidence over time. And we find that training plus also that warm welcome and that vote of confidence in building those systems really mitigates for this. And then curriculum and training programs lack flexibility and learner engagement. I think you have to, as a not even as the former CEO and founder of Care Academy, but as a teacher. I think once you're a teacher for life. There's the opportunity to teach in different modalities, and what we mean by that is that some folks may work really, really well in person. I think healthcare skills require some level of in-person training. There's the opportunity also to create flexibility because we know we're asking for the average caregivers working across 4 different clients, right? Or maybe even more. And so the opportunity to train in between, train flexibly, train as you go is really a giant opportunity that can be leveraged through Care Academy, but really has to be present and training in different modalities. So making sure they're offering up the in-person as well as the online is really a way to mitigate for that challenge as well. So I want to hear from you, and and thank you so much, Denise, Aurora, and Gloria, for offering some of your comments up. And I'm going to read them overall, and then I want to call on some of my friends in the background there. I think Ash, when you're there too, maybe we can read a couple of these too, just for sharing. And so I'm going to read some of these, but please share just your reaction to what I said. What systems are you using? My question to you all: what systems are you using right now to either service up different modalities? Are you giving that warm welcome on day one? What are you all doing right now? Let's see. So I'm going to go ahead and Emma Vogel, failure to pass background checks, needing full-time hours, misunderstanding of our policies. These are the main challenges I face in the onboarding process. Let's help Emma out. I think, there's really great opportunities. I think people need to hear or see 7 times to really understand, ways in which they are being guided or their progress through onboarding. If you have a way in any of the systems that you're using, other than Care Academy, we demonstrate that in terms of the training. But if there are ways of sort of guiding that person through, that applicant through, or even just a phone call, a check-in, right? Whether that's administrator, that's anyone on your staff, the scheduler, just saying, hey, how's it going in terms of sort of moving through? I completely agree with you, Emma. I think this is a very common challenge for not only just post-acute organizations, but organizations overall of like, where am I in this whole process, right? What's the next thing that I have to do? Am I making progress? So really huge shout out. Thank you, Emma, for sharing that. And if you all have systems that can, help and enable Emma, definitely raise that up. So Denise also said, more times we have issues with follow through on hiring processes, physicals, and FBI checks. 100%, hear that. I think that is, again, are there ways to tell our caregivers 7 times over, these are the things that you'll have to get through, whether that's a text message. We have text message enablements on our platform. We notice a lot of customers will use the text message feature to just basically highlight to each individual person or group of people, here's where you are in terms of your process. Text us back if you have any questions, but just checking in, I think really sort of helps that as well. And then Stephanie Wilson said, I'm a nurse educator. I send out a welcome email explaining my role and Care Academy, as well as any additional certifications I train for. As soon as they're hired, it's often before they begin. Stephanie, that's really awesome. That's exactly what I'm talking about. I think it's just even, an email, a text message. Who am I? I'm not some random person or even an automated, I'm not AI. You can use AI definitely, but even just letting folks know that there's a human being who cares about their experience, I think that goes a long way. Kudos to you, Stephanie. That sounds awesome. And I think definitely we can use a lot more of that. And Jaman, I'm so sorry if I got it incorrect. Said, we're a newer agency, so this is almost giving me a bit of a heads up for what we can expect when we start hiring in December. Thanks for this. Of course, Jaman. We're here to be of service to you in terms of brainstorming. And, likewise, if you are not already a part of any sort of mastermind, as a leader, I found it tremendous just to even not work in a silo. But Jaman and anyone, whether you've been doing this, like Jaman, welcome to our industry. Congratulations on starting your agency, whether it's in December or you've been doing it 20 years since December. Really encourage you all to get in community. So hats off, Jaman. I think this is a great heads up, definitely. And then let's see. I don't have Laura. Laurel asked a great question. I think we can get back to you, Laurel, about this. We're a home health care agency in Massachusetts. As the LGBTQIA training on Care Academy cover the state requirement. The California training, the Care Academy training is a long document to read, followed by a quiz question. So we'll check in on this. Ashwin, if you can help, just make sure we follow up with Laurel. Thank you so much. He's giving me a thumbs up. You guys can't see him, but he's giving me a thumbs up. So Laurel, we'll get back to you on that. Oh, Ashwin already did. Great job. Thank you, Ashwin. And then Gloria said, we've been doing group interviews and talking about the hiring process expectations through our interview process seems to help. Completely agree. So thank you so much, everyone who is interacting and just lending your voice. So keep chatting up. All right, let's keep going. So just in terms of your data, whether that's a screenshot, whether that is, we send out, maybe this is a worksheet, maybe you do this with your staff, or maybe it's just you. And Jaman, welcome again to our industry. This is a great way for you to sort of start tracking these numbers. But, relative to the benchmarks, we provided you the benchmarks. I want you, when we come off of this webinar, find some time in December to look at just even the data for this year, maybe a previous year. How many applicants did you all look at between your ATS and all of your hiring opportunities in data, right? In person, online, wherever they came from. And I will even give a plug that this sort of top of funnel, your acquisition, your applicant tracking, and the ways in which you're bringing in applicants, you also want to track this for effectiveness, right? Because, we know it to bring in folks and bring in applicants. When you're doing this in December, after the eggnog, after the Christmas cookies, after, all of the opportunities you have to gather with friends and family. I would also use this as a way to track the efficacy of the sources of your recruitment. How many were actually hired? How many started their first shift? How many are still employed after 30 days? I would even add, again, there's a criticality of 90 days, 30, 60, 90 days. Can you track the number of the number of caregivers that persist per cohort? So utilizing that data is going to, I think, enable you definitely for very strong 2026. Calculate the percent hired from applicants, percent show up rate, the early turnover, and where those leakage points are happening. So if we go back to the previous slide, that's your benchmark right now. If you go back one up, thank you, sir. Appreciate you, Ashwin. If you look at this previous slide, this is your benchmark. This is from our Activated Insights 2025 survey. How does that compare to your cohorting? And I really want you to look at the percentages, right, that you're moving through pipeline. So that's your homework. I'm a teacher. I have to give homework. I apologize, but it'll be fun. It'll be good, insightful homework. Let's just call it that. I'm curious. Next slide, please. What does your current time and days to first shift? First, how many of you all have that number? Yes, no. Do you have your time to first shift? Do you have a way of pulling that data up right now? And then what is that number? If you just want to write that in the chat, I really wish I could sort of see all of your faces, but our platform doesn't enable that. And that might be for better or for worse. But if you want to put in the chat, what does it look like right now for you? Have you seen even that number move, right? Yes, Leslie, we will be sending out the recording. Don't you worry. And we'll also be sending out I'm making more work for Ashwin in real time. We'll also be sending out the PDF so that maybe you can utilize that as well. But what does your current time and days to first shift look like? So if you have that number in the chat, okay, Evelyn, 7 to 14 days. All right, actually that's pretty good. 20 Kelly Swift, woo, 24 hours. I would love to unmute Kelly if I could and ask about that 24 hours. Kelly, if you could in the chat, would you mind telling us about how you're doing 24 hours and what you mean by 24 hours? Is that from applicant to first shift? Exactly. Emma's asking the same question. I think inquiring minds want to know, Kelly, if you can tell us how you're doing 24 hours. And Rosanna Martinez said 24 hours as well. So if you could just write in the chat, what are we tracking in that 24 hours and what are some of the things that you've enabled? Yeah, I'm asking how too. Typically, we're seeing folks, once they've tightened up systems, baseline go from maybe 1 to 2 weeks to going to like 4 or 5 days. If you have, if you're moving the needle by a couple days, what we don't want to have necessarily is 4 weeks. We've seen organizations who had maybe the utmost at 4 weeks where we know there's going to be a lot of leakage to now getting down to the 2 weeks. So cutting that time in half, getting that to 3 to 5 days. But I'm seeing 24 hours in the chat. So I really want to know about that. So Kelly Swift said, Ohio, we do not have to wait on background checks. Okay. All right. And then Ashley is saying, I've been struggling with onboarding and training. Is that completion of training and the onboarding, Ashley? What systems do you currently have in place? Laurel says, I wish we were in Ohio. So we got to figure out what Ohio is doing and definitely sort of make that writ large. I might be reaching out to you personally, Kelly, just to hear more about that 24 hours. And then Jamon asked a question. And so if you all can answer that question for Jamon, do you have any data on whether interviews on Zoom, et cetera, versus in-person work worse for holding on to the staff longer periods? I don't know if we have that information, Abby. Let's see if we have sort of where the medium in which it takes place. Does that enable essentially moving through the platform and being able to move through the hiring process and onboarding? I think that's a really interesting question to ask, Jamon. We've seen a number of clients do in-person, in some aspects of the check-in, and then also move to Zoom. We even have some folks who are using FaceTime because everyone loves FaceTime. I do not, but FaceTime we found is another way to just kind of get that in-person time. And then Leslie Klein says, for our 2 to 3 day turnaround, the caregivers are motivated, already on the California healthcare, the HCA, I forget what the HCA stands for again, but the registry. So they have a caregiver registry, their TB test, and a client with an immediate need. That's awesome. So that's of the most powerful organizations that are leveraging data and figuring out people as well as technology. We're seeing that potency lies in the 24 hours and the 2 to 3 days and things like that. But yes, Zoom video, Chelsea, yes. Zoom video check-ins and even FaceTime check-ins, we're seeing just really be an enablement. So Kenzie's saying in Arkansas, we get the background checks within 15 minutes. And Kenzie, I'd be really curious, what systems are you using? Is it a state-mandated system? Are you using Checker? What platforms are you using? But this is great data and insight, guys. Really appreciate it. All right, next slide. I promised everyone I wouldn't go too long, but I'm always really curious about what folks are doing out there. It's really great learning. So thank you so much for sharing, y'all. So, overall, the framework for us at Care Academy is to think about education. I obviously am biased towards Care Academy, but I think with any education, you can think about that as really serving the entire pipeline that we showed you earlier. That's the recruitment, that's the onboarding, that's the retention. So, using training as a way to help folks understand, maybe even get that desire, that willingness and ability, and helping them understand what caregiving looks like. Onboarding, so we offer the shared training history, the personalized content and courses. All of that is within our platform. So you're not only just providing a cohort the necessary training, but you're also saying on an individual basis, what are some gaps in understanding that you have as a caregiver? Let's address those, right? And we find that when training feels personalized, where someone is saying, hey, I don't have as much experience with Alzheimer's and other dementias, or looking at ways of managing stress or agitation. Those are things that you can enable through our personalized learning library, and then having that just-in-time training, and that that benchmarking, the individual sort of career and course paths. That's how you can leverage training overall. I think this is our framework for Care Academy, but certainly you can use education, whether online, in person, to really enable caregivers just through this sort of modality of thinking. So next slide. Essentially, what we're is a unified training solution that really enables the workforce and drives efficiency. So the way in which you can leverage training as part of your onboarding is to really just first start out by assessing where are the gaps where caregivers are falling through. Assign training, so deploy training automatically that really sort of focuses on whether it's a newbie caregiver or someone who has certain sort of, lacks sort of sub skills and wants a refresher. Engaging them, it's mobile. Again, using text message. One of the things that I really want to make sure I point out, whether it's on our platform or other platforms you engage in, if you have SMS tools, we find that most caregivers, rather than email, we tend to check our emails more than our caregivers do. They're on the go. They're usually using their phones. They're not checking their email as often. So really, if you're not using those SMS tools for engagement, whether in our platform or other platforms that you're using, we really highly recommend that. You can use it also to track progress. And then over time, really use the training data as a way to evolve your overall onboarding processes. So this is just a matter of looking at your data. You already have homework for But this is a way that once you have that information, once you have that data, and I would even say talk to caregivers, right? For those who are, really committed to your organization and your clients, where are places that they felt that you were really hitting the mark? Where are places that you can improve? We do this as a part of our platform building, right? We've talked to hundreds of caregivers to really refine the process of Care Academy, through surveys, through anecdotal data, through even walkthroughs, and that's the best way, I think, for any agency to really invest, or organization to really invest in what their employees need. So this model, this framework of using training as a way to enable throughout that whole funnel and that process. So if you go to the next slide. The old model is really sort of thinking of training as a one-time event. It's not just for onboarding. It's not just for your rules and regulations and policies. I think if you think about training or anything in your framework or system of onboarding as just that one shot in time, we really miss the opportunity, right? Like, the intent should not be to dump a whole bunch of training and say, okay, you got it, good, right? Because no one learns like that. I didn't learn like that. If you remember at the very top of this webinar today, I've said it takes about 7 times hearing, seeing, doing to really sort of get or retain anything. And that's what training is. That's what any sort of, integration into an organization really is. Instead, I want us to make a paradigm shift. And really, it's about building that continuous infrastructure. It's about that integrated onboarding. It's about that phone call where you say, hey, I really appreciate you showing up. We're really excited to work with you. Do you need anything, right? So it's both technology. I know that for 10 years I've run a technology company. Activated Insights is a software tool, but it's really the confluence of software as well as the human being in the middle that really will set you apart and set your organization apart. If you're not already doing some of these things, it'll help to accelerate caregiver mobility and growth, really understanding what are some of the training that they've already done, how do we sort of bring that in, and really overall improves retention and acquisition of caregivers, right? It helps us compete against the Walmarts or the Ubers or anything else that anyone could be doing, because it's not just sort of within industry. If we want folks who are service minded, who have the desire, the willingness, and we want to, it's our job to provide them the ability to do so. And so I think there's an excellent opportunity there. So how, right? I'm thinking about some of the folks who may have just started new organizations. On the next slide, if you, Ashwin, if you can move forward. There we go. So best in class training programs, thinking about how you onboard for retention for that, first shift, retention for that first shift and beyond. It's, really combining and creating programs or an education program that helps fulfill that mobile accessibility. It's on demand. It's aligned to evolving regulations. We can help you with that. Short form learning, again, you don't dump learning on whether it's an adult or a child, doesn't work. But having short tidbits of information repeated over time that folks can come back to and build understanding of the role. As I've said a couple times during the webinar, see what I'm doing there, because you have to hear it several times over. One of the biggest barriers for folks who have a desire to come into our industry is understanding what the role entails, right? So some of the classes that we offer include, what does it mean to be a caregiver? This is actually the first class that we created because we're hearing over and over again that folks would apply and would get nervous or scared because they felt like they were being thrown in. And this is a way that this class combines a lot of that service orientation, showing up, your appearance, how you address clients, and just sort of the basic skills, right? As you're coming into the industry, that just needs to be there, right? But the things that we take for granted because we've seen other people do it and be successful, and just having that readily there, I think has been tremendous for a lot of caregivers. It's also one of the most taken classes in Care Academy's history. Boundaries and professionalism in care, communicating with clients and families. And then you have sort of the upskilling pieces too. So safeties and essentials refresher, the de-escalation and stress management, resident engagement and basics. So having that just way of understanding how to be a professional, how to be in this role is really critical. So, and we see having that in multiple languages, which we do, really helps support a diverse workforce and really help reduce the administrative burden, right? It reduces the amount of calls. It reduces folks being like, I'm scared to do this because I don't feel like I have any support. So we want to show up alongside you in terms of making sure that your caregivers and your frontline staff have the support they need to see what the role looks like, and really combine that willingness and ability, right, to do the role. And then the next slide, slide 19, there we go. So, overall, it's ensuring that there are pathways and opportunities. I know I'd be really curious if any of the folks in the audience today, do you have a learning pathway or learning roles sort of set up in your organization? But our recommendation is, you have that initial set of orientation and compliance. So establishing expectations, that sense of purpose. So that what does it mean to be a caregiver, or at least some sort of orientation to do this? I think this can be online. I think it can be offline, right? But finding what works best for your caregivers, the safety and infection control, the boundaries and professionalism. This also really ties with the compliance standards across multiple states. That skills development, strengthening that day-to-day performance, the dementia, Alzheimer's, obviously that is becoming a huge requirement across multiple states, role types, as well as settings. That continues to be the case. Fall prevention and mobility support, nutrition and meal support, infection control refreshers, and then having this third tranche for your folks who, have really stayed the course. They feel like they're kind of going into their veteran status, the career growth and specializations into medication assistance, the home health aid training, CNA bridge program, supervisory and leadership training. Let us know in the chat, do you have any way of upskilling right now? Do you provide that? If you're a starter organization, I think it's just about, getting the basics done first. And I think over time, as you scale, there's certainly an opportunity to differentiate with having career growth and specialization and those opportunities for those different role types. So let me just check in the chat. Melissa said, we use open phone for caregiver communication, then Access Care is our scheduling. Very cool. Denise said, here in Pennsylvania, we use HHA Exchange for everything, one platform, no going from one to another. Grant said, well, Sky, this is awesome, right? And we are integrated and work in partnership with many of these providers. So thank you so much, and hats off, folks. So just keep sharing your experiences in the chat. If you want to go to the next slide, Ashwin. So in terms of preparing for the future and some of the opportunities that we see, at Activated Insights, what if every home care agency could see ROI with the implementation of portable credentials? And so one of the things that we rolled out and really sort of started experimenting with is this idea that if you've done training elsewhere, could we really sort of bring that to bear in terms of that shared training history and that portability opportunity? So there are an estimated 2.46 million caregivers across home care as it is. By leveraging portable credentials in 60 days, home care agencies can see nearly 5 hours of average saved, 4.69 hours, let me be exact, average saved in training requirements per caregiver. So if we really sort of expand that, that's 11.5 million hours of training eliminated across the workforce. So there's a really big opportunity. We see this, prevalent on the acute side of healthcare, where you have the ability to see, okay, what is the resume of the individual health worker? We think that in a lot of ways, direct care workers are very much in line with that opportunity. So how can we provide a way for you to see the total resume and the opportunity across those caregivers? If we go to the next slide, just from a very streamlined perspective, a caregiver applies, they're verified, and they start today. They start in 3 to 5 days, or even in some of the cases of our colleagues, 24 hours, because they're applying, they submit an application to the agency, they're getting verification. So whatever those back office systems that you're using and the HRIS systems, and their scheduling, because you're using and you're leveraging training in all of these too. Maybe when someone is applying, you're providing them the access to a day in the life of the caregiver through that verification process, right? You're providing them insights into working with your agency, and then also the opportunity, and then like from that application to verify, getting to a scheduling on that first shift. So, let's go to our call to action. I'm just watching time here, and I really want to be mindful here. I'm enjoying this so much. So what does good to great look like for your agency? So many of you all in the chat called out that you're currently at, possibly, if I took a really rough average of the comments in the chat, roughly about 2 to 3 weeks. Some of you are already at 24 hours, right? We got to get you on a webinar. But in that 24-hour or that 3 to 5 day span, the good to great really is really asking the question, how fast are you converting qualified candidates? Are candidates accepting or dropping off late in the process? When you do that homework this December, you'll really sort of start to see that. So track these monthly, measure that speed to hire, speed to first shift, and early retention. Step 2, set your training standards. So make sure the training is set to enable, not disable you. If you are, if you can, based on your state's compliance requirements, and we have that built into the engine of our platform, can you piece out that training? Do you know your state's minimum training standards requirements? What courses count towards those requirements? Are there classes that we can provide maybe a couple days afterwards, or we can stagger? Are you duplicating effort? So really making sure that compliance should be that groundwork, that initial, piece that we want to make sure that in between application and time to first shift they're receiving, and then everything else sort of backloaded. But if we dump everything all at once for caregivers, we're going to likely see that they're going to back off of the ability to really go through that throughput in your pipeline. So all questions to ask, and really want to see if we're moving the needle, or if we can move the needle from where we are right now, your baseline relative to the benchmarks that we showed you from Activated Insights, and really how you are, have the opportunity to move the needle. And then just to the next slide, in terms of improving recruiting. So in that 30 to 45 days, what we want to make sure you're looking at, this is your homework in December, tighten processes and reduce time to hire, audit your hiring and training requirements to ensure alignment. I think if you really want to get going in 2026 and really drive impact, December is a really great time to look at your metrics, not only, your revenue, not only sort of your client mix, but also looking at, essentially how are you doing on the biggest thing that matters to a lot of the organizations in our industry, right? Bringing in quality talent and making sure that folks are ready and able on day one. So standardizing those job titles and job expectations, tracking the application time to hire, where a candidate's stalling in your process. A lot of the back office systems that you all mentioned will enable you to do this. This is a good time hint to maybe get some of those folks on the phone and say, how can you help me sort of track this within the back office system that we're using? Set clear metrics and visit them monthly just to improve that speed to hire, right? I think this is a really great goal for, agency owners as well as administrators within, throughout post-acute organizations to say, here's where we are relative to the benchmark. How do we keep moving forward? How do we set goals in terms of making sure that folks maybe move faster, but more people come across that pipeline? Are you above or below your hiring benchmark? And do you know why? That's essentially what we can answer in that first couple days. And then next slide. Onboarding, so focusing on that 45 to 90 days. And the 45, this is all referencing, what are things you can do within your organization just to really kind of take a look at this and move the needle. Review your onboarding workflow. Where can you tighten that speed to first shift? Start strong, include those role expectations and compliance readiness in your first onboarding call. So making sure that someone is making the call to caregivers, assigning training that's role specific. So making sure folks are getting training, not all dumped at once during, your recruitment and early on, but really that you're taking that whole throughout the caregiver's experience, right? And finding those opportunities to really sort of chop up that training experience. Set clear expectations with curriculum requirements, whether that's, I think someone mentioned emails about what's expected, text messages, but just having a way of communicating what's expected right now versus what are things that you're going to go through to support the caregiver. And then the next slide, retention. So 90 days and beyond, right? How do you keep staff engaged, learning and growing? Creating those learning pathways so staff can see their next step. Ensuring training is not repetitive. So using training data wherever possible and refining it. Get feedback through your caregiver surveys, get feedback through your client surveys about how and what are some of the skill sets or some of the opportunities to refine your staff. Provide just-in-time learning that supports real-world challenges rather than just sort of those annual refreshers, right? So just-in-time and personalized training. And then, of course, integrate those HRIS systems, call Access Care, call WellSky. I think everyone's going to love that I'm saying that, but call some of those folks and let's figure out ways in which we can enable or they can be enabled, and you can unlock some of the feature sets that help you either get to this data and help you change and move the needle. And and the next slide, your action item, we'll call it for December rather than for Monday. We'll call it December. To head into 2026 strong. A lot of the public policies are already really starting to shift. So state and federal mandates are already shifting. We've seen it in a number of different post-acute settings in the different states. Portability requirements are emerging really around compliance mandates. The Nevada culture, I have to always make sure I say it right, Nevada. Cultural competency training role, Maine's personal support specialist training. These are just in 2025. And, we think that there are more that will be happening or occurring over the next couple years. Get proactive, right? Model that ROI. This is our business is a business of caring and ensuring that we have the best quality talent in order to meet the needs of our clients and patients. And so really modeling and understanding the numbers, I think, is really critical. And sometimes you're running with your hair on fire. It's hard to do that. But in the quiet time, I would really urge that you do that. I will be doing that as well across all of the organizations that we are so fortunate to work with. And with that said, that is the very last slide. So it is 1:59. Any questions, thoughts, comments? If we can't answer those questions today, we'll certainly make sure that we get someone. Yes. So Emma is asking, so Ashlyn, this is your time to shine. Can someone from Care Academy, Activate Insights, please send me an email address that I can send a few questions to after this meeting? Thank you. So it would be great. So we're going to put that in the chat. Thank you, Emma. Really appreciate you. And then Oh, I love this. Thank you so much, Chelsea, for sharing this. Our caregivers are allowed to wear any type of scrub or colors, but have to wear their custom badge for the identity purpose of the company. I love that. That's great. We see folks using colors, shirts, polos, and a different variety of ways of highlighting so that they know who they are in and among themselves as a staff, and that also clients as well as folks, if you all are in residential care settings, know exactly who they're working with. So that's really great. And Emma and everyone else, thank you, Ashwin, for providing this. You can send your questions to team.careacademy@careacademy.com, and we will get back to you. Stephanie Wilson asks, when we request a welcome message to be resent to the aides, does it go through SMS or email? So are you asking specifically about Care Academy, Stephanie? I know you can't necessarily talk back, but if you can just clarify. I personally, and just based on the data that we have in our platform, speaking together with also Activated Insights, we know that caregivers really do well with SMS. I think both cannot hurt, but SMS is the preferred method that we're seeing. SMS text is the preferred method that we're seeing. And the good news is, Care Academy's platform has that SMS enabled, so you can use that. But you can use any of whether it's your HRIS, whether it's Care Academy. We just really strongly urge that a lot of that operational messaging is going through SMS. So we highly recommend that. Yes, exactly. Thank you so much, Ashwin. Really appreciate that. Okay. I want to be respectful of time. You all are people. You all are probably preparing for Thanksgiving and the holidays. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate all of you all coming here. This is the first official event that I'm doing sort of in New Jersey, so I really appreciate you all. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, whether it is the email that was provided, teamcareacademy@careacademy.com. If you have any questions whatsoever, we're very happy to respond. Hit me up on LinkedIn. And also just really excited for the future forward with all of you. If we can be of any service, let us know. Happy holidays. And I hope you get some time to share and refine your data. And here's to a wonderful, productive, and amazing 2026 for each of you all. Thank you so much, all.